All right, what's up? It's your boy Maurice back here with another moment of truth. All right, this episode is where I learned about being in relationships. I got my notes right here. What I learned about being in relationships. Now, this is a topic that is, again, close to my heart because I did a lot of work on myself over the last several years. And I feel like the work that I've done has been paying off in major ways, major ways. And I'm very grateful for that. Also, I feel that a relationship between a couple is the foundation of their legacy going forward. And to me, legacy is important, because if you have a strong foundation rooted in real love and work, the work that it takes to get there, then you have a better chance of putting out a longer lasting legacy. You're setting up the example for future kids and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So just to give you a little bit of a background, I'm gonna go into some of my past scenarios. Now, I did the long-term relationship thing for a bit, few times, all right, in my short little lifespan here. And of those long-term relationships, the third time was the charm, you know what I mean? And the ones I was in, there was one that was for 5 years, another one that was 7. And the one that was 5, it came about because the person liked me. And I'm like, all right, I felt like a little bit of something, and I didn't really have higher standards for myself. My standards were probably right here, but inside I really wanted to be up here. Notice the hand is not on the screen no more, right? So I wanted to have higher standards, but I started really low. I just accepted the first thing that came to me. I'm like, all right, bam, so she feel me, whatever, all right. And this particular person was older than me. She was significantly older than me. And I'm like, all right, well, then I could learn something from her. That's not a reason to get into a relationship. I'll just tell you that right now. That's not a reason to get into a relationship because someone likes you and you can learn from them. Not a good reason. All right. I was about 20, say around 22, whatever, 22, 23. And my life was financially screwed up. I ended up having to file for bankruptcy at that point. So, because I had made so many dumbass mistakes with money back then that I had to do that in order to help fix my stuff. So, fast forward, I'm in this relationship, and this particular person was pretty insecure with themselves, and that insecurity just was a underlying thing of how the relationship didn't work, which caused her to manipulate me, which caused me to actually try to be that person to show and prove, because I'm like, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. It was constantly the dialogue that I had to put out there. And I felt like I had to keep on defending that narrative that I wasn't like that. And it got to a point where I was like, this is too much. And you do that for a good number of years, it becomes to be too much. So needless to say, they got to a breaking point, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I have my speculations about certain things that happened during that relationship, but we'll say that for another time when we get real moment of truth, raw. That's coming up in a little bit. But so I ended that relationship, and even after that relationship was over, she was still trying to find ways to manipulate and control. All right. And I wasn't having that. So what I ended up doing was, instead of telling her outright at first, I try to be cool, I try to be, chill, whatever. And then one day I just let her have it. I put everything out there. Everything out there. There's a reason why I'm saying this, because there's a part that comes with this. So, but everything out there, it's like, there's sometimes you can just take a hammer to hang up a picture, and put a nail on the wall, right? Little hammer like this. Nah, with this scenario, I went and got a sledgehammer and put a hole in the wall. That's what I did. And that wasn't necessarily that great. I unloaded. I felt good in that moment. Do I have regrets about it? Not really. But I know now I can handle situations better than doing that. So being upfront is something that I learned from that one. Fast forward a few years after that, I started off with someone. It was a physical thing. And I don't know why I let it segue from that physical thing to being in an actual relationship when we really didn't match up that well, and I made that mistake myself. It was a step up from where I was, and it had its advantages, its perks and everything, but it really, over a long period of time, there were still parts of me that I needed to discover, I needed to work on and really feel out. And I was settling for something. And one of the things I know is like, from my perspective, I'm going to say my perspective, is if you're in a scenario with someone and you're saying you're committed and all that, but you're looking on the outside like, yeah, I wonder what that would be like. The second that goes down, you got something going on. You got to address that. Why are you looking at that? Again, this is my perspective and this is what I experienced. And this is the part that I own. So I was in this other relationship and I was engaged to this person. And at some points, I was just like, you know what? I was lacking fulfillment. The scenario was lacking fulfillment for me, but I was doing my best to cling on to a narrative as to not lose my identity as a loyal one-woman person. And so I suppressed it. I suppressed until I couldn't suppress it anymore. And then, scenarios did happen. And it ultimately led to the relationship becoming toxic because I wasn't fulfilled on one end and she wasn't fulfilled on another end. And we were not coming together to talk, being outright honest, consistent and transparent and patient. There was no CTP in that relationship. None of that. None of that consistency, none of that transparency, none of that patience. I was offering the transparency to a degree. I wanted to talk. She didn't want to talk, but that was that. And there was like a breach of trust. And the breach of trust was because I wasn't being true to myself. There were standards that I wanted to raise my bar up to that I wasn't really reaching. And I was expecting someone else to become that standard. But here's what I had to learn. I had to become the standard. They can't be the standard. I have to be the standard. And if I'm the standard, then the standard will actually show itself in front of me. And sometimes it's hard to walk away. It's very hard to walk away. But, when you get to that point where a situation's that toxic, you need to get out and you need to move. Otherwise, things could really get out of hand. So that was that scenario without going into like detail, right? One of the things another thing that I actually learned was that I was trying to dodge heartbreak. And by trying to dodge heartbreak, in both of these scenarios I was in, I had other relationships and stuff like that too, but in these two scenarios, what I was trying to do was not be hurt. So I was sacrificing myself, doing all these things. And then eventually it didn't serve me because I was trying to run away from being heartbroken. I was afraid of whatever, being cheated on or whatever. And, lo and behold, the broken heart came up anyway. And when one is doing their best to not be hurt, they're guarded. They're not allowing for their true self to show up and be there, because they're guarded. They're going into it like this. Instead of going in there like, okay, whatever, I'm like this. And wearing a mask and all that. If you go in there wearing a mask all the time, it's just like you're not being your true, authentic self. And it smothers you. I should know I dressed as a Pikachu for Halloween, and I wore that mask for a good hour or so. It got a little warm in there. And once I took that helmet off, it felt good to get some regular air. But when you go into a situation wearing a mask and you're running away from heartbreak and things like that, you're not going to operate to the best of your ability in that scenario. You're not going to love that person any better. They can't show up for you because you're not being your true, authentic self. And you're afraid of showing your true, authentic self to that person, and you don't need to be with that person. That's my opinion, okay? The thing about it, what I've learned about relationships, especially being in the one I'm in now, being married and all that, is that love is an action word. Love is an action word. It's not like this thing that shows up and there's pixie dust and there's Tinkerbell and there's all that stuff that comes about, and you just have this feeling. And in that feeling, it's just like, no matter what they do, it's just so like, ah. No, it's not like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I had some of the feels with my wife, but I took my time and I observed. I was her friend, I'm still her friend, and we learned about each other. I watched her mannerisms, we talked about things. She opened up to me, I opened up to her, and it was all truthfulness from there. There's no sweeping under the rug, there's no putting on the face of this person, whatever. Like, for example, we were going out and sometimes I'd be like, yo, why are you wearing makeup for? Just be your authentic self. Like, I don't like makeup because you're hiding who you really are. Like, show me who you really are. You ain't got to do all that. And she finds it nuts, but that's just me, and being able to be totally truthful and totally honest and upfront, it stings a little bit in the beginning. It's like an ice bath. It stings for a second, but then after a while you adjust, and after that adjustment, things are so much better. So we have discussions versus arguments. We don't go at each other's throats. We call each other out when one's out of pocket, and it's just like right there. We don't wait and we don't let it fester. We deal with it right then and there. And you have to choose the person every day. Like, I choose my wife every day. Every day. As a matter of fact, I choose her every 5 minutes. There's 8 point whatever billion people out there. You can all go out there. You can go out there and find somebody else. You can find somebody else, on the way out from work, whatever. I can find somebody else, whatever. But we choose each other, And I know I'm speaking for myself for sure that I choose my wife every day. And the action word of love is there's work involved. And that work means I have to uphold myself to a standard. In Superhuman X, we have ownership. Right, it's like it's one of the pillars of Superhuman X, and so these pillars in that program go directly into my life and how I live it. Commitment, being committed to it, and accountable, and standards. I have to have high standards. I have high standards for how I want to be, how I want our family to be, how I want our lives to be together, and I'm not going to shake that for anybody. And then there's also ownership. If I do something wrong, if I mess up on something, I'm owning that shit. I'm holding myself accountable. I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, I didn't do the laundry today because you weren't around. No, if I didn't do laundry today, it's because my ass didn't get up and go take it downstairs like I was supposed to do. That's my fault. If the dishes are in the dishwasher and they need to be emptied out and they haven't been, or there's dishes in the sink that need to be washed and all that, and they haven't been done, and she might have asked me to do it, and I didn't do it, it's not because, oh, you asked me the wrong way. No, it's because my ass ain't fucking go and load the dishwasher like I said I would. So I got to go ahead and make that work. You know what I mean? Love is an action word. It takes work. It's painstaking work sometimes because it's not for that. It's not really like you doing all these things for that person. It's all the things that you're doing for yourself to be on top of your game, to be able to provide that so-called emotion to the other person. You know, I don't speak the word, I don't speak love, I show it. I'm an action person on that. You know what I mean? So after I went on that little tirade, that's how I learned what, to me, this is what love is. This is what love actually is. I had a conversation with someone a while back, and they said, you know, that love, you know, when you got that feeling and like, you know, you got these like this butterfly shit. I'm like, no. Mm-mm. I'm very practical with that now because of all the things I've experienced over the last several years. You know, I was a thirsty son bitch when me and my ex-fiance broke up. I went out and did 25 dates on dating apps within a month. That's ridiculous. It was a waste of time, and there was a lot of wasted money and stuff, and a lot of just like weird meeting of people. And I couldn't tell you who near one of them is. I can't tell you none of that. And I have to use bad grammar on that one. Terrible grammar on that one. I can't tell you what near one of them is. I don't know nothing about any of them. You know, and all for what? You know, what, for a little goodie bag or something occasionally? Come on, man. And none of that stuff was real. None of it was authentic. It was just like, it was weird. It was very weird. And once I start to really dig in and do the work on myself, take myself out and experience things on my own, that's when I start building a foundation of learning what love actually is and setting my standards. Now, I wrote a list of what I wanted in a partner. You might have heard this in some of my other Moments of Truth videos, but I wrote a list of things that I wanted. And I'm like, there's only one way I'm going to get that. I have to become what's on that list. I have to do that. And if you have standards of your own, you have to become the standard. You can't set standards for everybody else and not do the work for yourself. This is my theory on how love works. You set the standards, you become the standards, you do the work, and guess what? That love will follow. That love will be shown by how much you put the effort into who you are and your own elevation. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. So when it's been said, love yourself always, always love yourself, then that other stuff comes to be. It comes to pass. So I'll give you a couple of things before I tune off of this. Number one, you're going to get hurt one way or another. Here's how. Because if you care for someone, you love someone, when that time comes and the final days do show up, that happens. That was a lesson I learned from losing my parents. I love my parents dearly, and that void will never be filled. It's not meant to be. The Grand Canyon is a great void, but it looks great the way it is. You fill up the Grand Canyon, then you don't have a Grand Canyon anymore. You know, so don't run away from heartbreak. Don't be afraid of being hurt. Accept the fact that it will happen at some point. Someone might say something that is going to hurt your feelings or is going to bother you a little bit, but don't run from that. Embrace that. Okay. 2, set standards, become the standard. I'm going to say it again. Set the standard, become the standard. Let me say it one more time. Set the standard, become the standard. All right. Number 3, love is an action word. Do the things you're supposed to do for yourself. Follow through on the things you say you're going to do for that other person. And you're not going to always feel like it. But if you're being consistent and transparent and patient, which is all part of the agreement, you're loving right, in my opinion. Now, I ain't no expert or anything like that. There's no PhD in me, and I don't have a PhD in LOVE, but these are some of the things that I learned and where I'm at right now in my life, you know. And number 4, like, be a person's friend first. Get to know them. And the 4th part is more about when you start meeting people and stuff. You go out there, you meet somebody. Really, really talk to them instead of trying to look inside their pocket or inside their pants and all that stuff. You know, the reality is that stuff will come once you connect on a different level. You know, this is more for like the younger people who are out there and they're trying to get their footing in the world and all that stuff. But, you know, some of us adults too, some of y'all, you know, some people who are in their 30s and whatnot, be out there, you know, just get to know the person, you know, and don't wear a mask. Don't be afraid. Take the mask off. My favorite part about me being single at the last part of it was when I took my mask off and I was 100% me. And I'm like, this is who I am, man. Take it or leave it. I don't give a fuck. You go at it like that, the person will either take it or leave it. Whether you want them or not, whatever. You could want a person, but they don't want you back. You don't want to be there. You want to be where you're celebrated, not tolerated. I got that one from Eric Thomas. Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. You know, and that's big in the case of love. So this one's been going on for quite a while, but I just wanted to get all that stuff out there. I was hyped up about this topic because it's something that I'm very proud to have undergone, to have experienced, and I'm constantly working on it now, you know. And again, the relationship piece is about laying the groundwork for your next steps, your next level. You have a foundation in the partner you're with. You create that, you have that love going on there, that action of love, the work of love and all that stuff. You're choosing that person every day. And then eventually you pair up. And if you have children with each other, or you adopt or something, or you do whatever you do, and there's somebody that's going to be coming out of that result of you two pairing together, you're setting up the foundation to build on top of that. You know, so that's the stuff that I've learned from love. And hey, feel free to send me an email or something like that if you want to chat about it, because this is something I do enjoy talking about. So, oh, one more thing. I'd say hang around people, this is the 5th one, hang around people who are also in solid relationships, happy relationships. They could be boyfriend, girlfriend, but they gotta be solid. You know, and they can be taking that next step. If they don't want to get married, they don't want to get married, whatever. But if they're truly committed, you can see that, and they express that, and it's like that. That's what you want to be around. So those are the type of people that can tell you about, give you like good advice and stuff going into a relationship and stuff like that. So yeah, that's all I got for you today. All right, thank you for your time. All right. Remember, love yourself always. Always love yourself. I had to put that one in this one. All right. Peace out.